We are starting up the podcast right about meow. Hello,
Just
hello.
hello.
Hey, how's it going,
Hello.
guys? How you guys doing?
Not bad. How you doing?
Fantastic.
Dude, I am doing solidly okay, except for the fact that it's summer and it's hot as hell. Aside from that, I'm great.
Solidly okay. That's a new one.
Yeah.
Well, and of course you live in California, which
Yeah.
even
The land
regard-
that's
you know,
always on fire, no matter what.
well,
It's great.
Exactly.
Yeah. It might as well be hell.
It's let's see. Since we've been doing the podcast, you've survived fires, you've survived snowstorms, you've survived earthquakes, and just blazing hot heat. Am I missing anything? Landslides?
Fire tornadoes, but I guess that's fire. So that we're good.
Swarms of
that
locusts?
basically covers everything. Not yet. Soon,
No,
one day.
that's-
Oh, I'm sure.
I say, and what
Give
about
it a week or two.
What about the Holy Spirit coming and taking all the firstborns?
That was a couple weeks ago. That already happened. Whatever. It's not big.
Bless you, my child.
Oh man. You doing good over there, Danie? You good?
I'm hearing some buzzing.
Well,
Uh-oh.
Danny's broken, so I guess I'm gonna be the.
Am I
okay.
back?
Yeah. Welcome
Something
back.
happened.
Long time no
Something
see.
weird happened there. I'm not going to
Please
touch
hold.
the microphone. All right. So now that my microphone is working, I guess.
Mhm.
Hello and welcome to Next to Nothing, the show where we talk about how to waste your time and not your money in video gaming. I am your host, Danie K. With me, as always, the man, the myth, the legend, Ren c0rnz.
Hi, that's me. Hello. How you guys doing? I hope you're all incredible. Hello.
And our special guest this week, a man who, first off, has been streaming on Twitch for 1 year today. He's celebrating his stream anniversary
Yes.
with
Congrats,
us today.
Hell yeah.
Acorns.
Oh
How you
man.
doing,
Hi.
Acorns?
I'm fantastic. How are you? I wasn't sure how long the intro was going to go, so I was like, quiet, go.
Just wait for it. Any
Just wait for it,
second
and I'll
now.
talk.
Oh man.
So Acorns, we like to
Yes.
do a plug at the top of the show and at the bottom of the show.
Ah, right.
Why don't you tell the people where they can find you and what they're going to find when they get there?
So, as Danny said, I'm Acorns. I'm an aspiring voice actor. Been doing a lot of auditions lately, so that's been really fun. Typically,
Awesome.
yeah. And they're just a lot of it's just like fan projects. Like, I need someone for my Minecraft project. I'm like, sure, I'll do it, whatever. But typically, on my stream, I'll do voice acting streams where we will play like games that have like RPG elements, or basically just like visual novels, and it's there's text at the bottom, and then we'll have people like myself and some other people would be doing the voices and all that. And whenever I get a sub, I'll do the movie trailer voice and all that. If you guys want a sample, I could totally do one later.
Give me one now. I don't even care.
You want one now? In a world where one man decides to subscribe to Michael Acorn, comes
That's
the story of a
beautiful.
lifetime. Yeah, that kind of crap.
Oh man.
And I'm a big variety streamer. I play everything from Overwatch, NHL, Overwatch. It's mostly just a lot of Overwatch lately. I just finished Detroit Become Human though, and that was fantastic.
Ooh.
So good.
Yes.
So
Oh,
good.
man. Yeah.
Loved it. So yeah, you can find me at twitter.tv/a_c0rnz. There was another acorn taken, so yay.
If you guys are in the Twitch stream, I will go on ahead and put a link out there for you guys to check that out. If you guys are listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or watching on YouTube, or any of the other wonderful places we put our podcast, link will be down below in the description of this episode. So go check him out, go give him a follow, and don't miss his streams.
Yes.
His streams are fantastic.
Actually, there'll be one following the podcast tonight.
Excellent.
Ooh.
So you guys will have an opportunity right away to check them out. We have a little bit of housekeeping to get out of the way quick.
Mm-hmm.
First off, tomorrow is July 31st, which means tomorrow at midnight, my time, Chicago time, we will be taking the mug, the 1 year NTN mug, off of the store. So this is your last chance, if you guys are watching live, to go get yourself a limited edition next to nothing gear mug. So go pick that up. They are fantastic. I still have to get mine because I'm still having problems with PayPal.
Oh man, I know the feeling.
So because apparently Streamlabs doesn't want to just use, credit cards or won't use Google. It pissed me off. That's just something else. We also have our giveaway that we're doing.
Mhm.
So this week, the game that we were giving away, the individual game that we're giving away, was a copy of Monster Prom.
Ooh.
So we're going to pick a random name for the Monster Prom, and then we're also going to give away. My seat is shrinking. Sorry.
You said it would happen too.
I said it was, yeah. You actually, Ryan, you caught me in the middle when we started. You caught me in the middle of talking about why I hate this fucking chair.
Oh my god.
So we're gonna draw the random name for Monster Prom, and then we're gonna draw the random name for the $70 package. Now, if you guys remember, the way that it worked was that the more that you retweeted the links throughout the month, your name would get put in the hat essentially multiple times for the package worth $70. So let's do Monster Prom first, and our winner is at Frank from Patty's on Twitter. At Frank from Patty's, thank you for retweeting the link and congratulations. We'll be adding you on Twitter. So please make sure that you respond to our message. You have 30 days to reclaim your prize. If you guys haven't redeemed your prizes within 30 days, we will be giving them away again.
Mhm.
We have had 2 people not claim their prizes. So
No, 2
make
people
sure
out
you
of
do
3 so far. So basically, we've only given away 1.
Yeah.
That's pretty much
Yeah,
been the case. Oh man, I still can't get over that. I could not believe because I was thinking because I'm supposed to be giving away Hollow Knight, and
Mhm.
the person never got in contact with us, and I'm just sitting over here am I gonna get a mess? Like when do you need this link? I'm ready whenever you are.
Yeah.
I have the code.
And that's a good game too.
It's so
Yeah.
good. Oh my
I've heard
god.
it's good. I haven't gotten it yet myself, but
We got a
Oh, man.
key from the developers of Insurgency Sandstorm,
oh really?
and we still haven't been able to give that. Like the person just never responded. So I did just draw the winner for our $70 package. This is the $70 year package, year celebration package. We want to do like a little drum roll, like a little at Nemi Butt. Congratulations.
Oh!
Nemi Butt.
Good-ish, Nevi. Nice. Hell
Yes,
yeah.
congratulations, Nemi. You have won the next to nothing year celebration package. It has a total value of $70. I will be sending, because I know exactly who Nemi Butt is. I will be sending you the keys to redeem. So congratulations.
Oh man.
Other than that, I think we are all good in terms of any sort of housekeeping, right? Ren, anything
Yeah, I
else?
believe so. No, not really. I mean, I could just talk about how I got a new camera, which is awesome, by the way. I love
You're
it
looking
to death.
crisp.
Oh, thank
Real
you.
crisp.
Thank you.
That
I went
face-
from web camera to actual camera, and oh my god, the difference is like nutty. I can't get over it. It is the best.
That's
That's
the
all.
same thing.
Can I just real quick just say that I am pissed that you got that though, because I now have to. I have a DSLR,
Mhm.
so now I actually have to get the AC adapter and like a cam link or something so I can match your quality. You fucker.
See, I have
Oh,
a
man.
Canon M50 that I use for like a lot of the freelance work that I do, but I haven't quite like bit the bullet yet to get a cam link to use it on my stream, because at the same time I'm like, I am just the laziest fucker in the world. So I'm just like, I'm just gonna leave it right there. It's gonna stay there
Yeah.
forever. And then instead of me having to like undo the freaking camera every time I want to use it out in the field, I'm just like, I just need to get another camera and just have it sit there.
Yeah.
Oh,
Because
man.
otherwise it's just my webcam is just sitting there. So
Yeah. So thanks, Ren.
No problem. I just
Thanks.
need to get that mild humble brag out there. That's all. That's all. No big deal or anything.
Son of a
Flexing.
bitch.
Flexing.
Oh man, I love it so much. It's an amazing camera. I'm so happy.
What camera
Okay.
is it?
It is a Lumix GX85. It is quite nice. It's a 4K mirrorless camera, and oh my god, it is
Nice. Very nice.
nutty. I love it. All right,
See,
that's
Bubba gets me. Flexing.
Yeah. What kind of you're using a 12 millimeter, like 50 millimeter lens, something like that,
I'm
right?
using right now. I think I have a 12 to I think I have a 12 to 50 on. I also have a I think
It's
it's
a weird focal length.
Yeah. I'm thinking about getting a 25, like a 25
Mm.
millimeter with like a really short aperture, or
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Yeah, a really tiny depth of field. Thinking about it, dude, lenses are insane costing. They're like
Oh, yeah.
$150. I didn't even know. I was just like, oh,
So,
camera,
Yeah,
and then like
glass is fucking expensive. So
Yep.
if there's any like beginning photographers out there and you guys are like wanting to get like different like lengths and stuff like that, here's one of my number one tips. If you can find working compatible adapters, do not be afraid to buy vintage glass.
Okay.
Acorn might disagree with me. I know he
No, I 100% agree with you.
Yeah. Because I know some people who disagree about buying vintage glass, but if you're like like if you don't want to buy a $500 lens, that's just because you want to take nature photography and you need something that's 70 to 200 millimeters,
hmm
buying a vintage lens cuts that fraction down. And the adapter, sometimes if the adapter works, like there's going to be some trial and error in that.
Mhm.
I bought an adapter and I just couldn't seem to get a lens to work with an adapter.
hmm
Um, so I mean, like I said, you're gonna do some trial and error. I inherited, I guess, a vintage 200 millimeter lens and a vintage 50 millimeter lens with the camera, with an old Canon camera that I still have to get an adapter for my DSLR. But I'm actually really excited to try those out at some point because I have a 50 millimeter, I have a 18 to 55 kit lens, and I have a 75 to 300 millimeter lens. So I kind of have the gamut there,
hmm
like what you need. I have one prime lens,
Yeah.
one that can do wide, and then one that can do super tight. Um, and I got those all for minimal prices. But the vintage lenses are the ones I'm excited to actually try out. So,
Nice.
this is photography talk on Next Enough.
I
I was
mean,
gonna say, forget all the topics we had.
whatever.
But actually, what's kind of related to this is, Michael. Or I'm sorry. Oh, was I not supposed to say your actual name?
I said my name earlier.
Okay.
It's not a big deal.
Whoops.
Nice.
Acorn, Mike. Sorry. You've done a lot of video work.
Yeah.
I've done video work. Me and you are both power users in Adobe Audition or Adobe Premiere.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually a power user in a lot of Adobe stuff.
Same.
I had something advertised to me last week that I wanted to try out, and I did try it out, called
Mhm.
Filmora 9. It's from Wondershare. It's a non-linear video editing system that markets itself as a editing software that does everything for you, essentially.
Okay.
Okay.
So
I'm worried
it's
right
all
there.
about like it's all about like unlocking your potential in video editing. Um and like doing the whole uh spend less time editing, more time creating is kind of like how
Mhm.
it like all felt, right?
Right.
I tried out the free version, and let me first say the free version, I don't know what I was expecting. I was expecting a watermark, not a giant fuck off watermark that was an entire lower third.
Oh
It
my.
legitimately took up the entire bottom third of the screen.
Oh no. Oh
Wow.
god,
I
no.
was expecting a watermark, but I was not expecting a giant. Literally, I mean, right where like my microphone is. If you guys are watching the screen,
Mhm.
all the way across the bottom.
Oh, that's just
Wow.
absurd.
Yeah.
For the free version.
But even still.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was expecting something, in the corner, like
Mhm.
right here where my hand is.
Or
You know,
or like just like maybe like you can only like export like 5 minutes or something like that.
yeah,
Right.
yeah. So that's what I was expecting. That's not what I was expecting. So right off the bat, this is not for anyone unless you guys want to start learning how to edit video. But even then, I do not think this is going to be entirely the best option for anyone that wants to learn how to edit video. So let me just kind of go
Mhm.
through some of the stuff. Like I said, it's a nonlinear editing system, which means basically, for people who don't know, nonlinear means that you can stack video on top of video.
Right.
Back in the old days of film, it was all linear because you had to take the film
Mhm.
and then you had to splice the film together, right?
Yeah.
Very linear box. Um, Non-linear, like I said, means you can stack video on top of video. So I can put, this here, and then I can put like maybe some sort of B-roll over top of me talking.
Mhm.
Or I can, be talking here and then I can have some sort of video pop up and they, right here and then play simultaneously.
Yeah.
So that's what that means, that you can have different video channels in a single project playing at the same time.
Mhm.
The window layout for this is similar to Adobe Premiere, more similar to Adobe Premiere than say like Avid or Final Cut. I watched some tutorials on Final Cut.
Mhm.
Oh,
I've
Final
worked with
Cut.
Avid. I've never used Final Cut. I've used Avid once.
Mhm.
For a
Oh,
project.
Avid.
Dude, Avid is a pain in the ass, especially on the systems. I mean, the university computers that had like
Oh
3 gigs of
my God.
RAM.
I
Oh,
was like I was forced to use Avid in college and I
Yeah.
hated it. I basically because like I had enough experience by this point, like I got into a class like for video editing.
Uh-huh.
I had
Mhm.
enough experience at this point where I was just like, you could teach me like a couple new things, that's about it. But I under the table, I was like, I'm doing this shit in Premiere. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
Because I just got so fed up at one point. I just like basically I went into the lab and I was like, okay, I'm gonna export all my footage off of this camera in Avid, and then I'm
Mhm.
just gonna put it on this drive, take it home, and edit it in Premiere because fuck Avid.
Mhm.
I had kind of a similar situation where we really struggled with Avid, and what really sucked was the codec thing. So this is gonna get really off tracks again. But so Avid requires that you convert things into a particular codec. And I
Mhm.
remember we had 4 or 5 hours of footage for a documentary, and we we exported them, or we started importing them and letting Avid do the codec thing, and it took 5 hours. Like we
Oh,
had to reserve a
no.
lab computer for 5 hours
That's disgusting.
before we could even touch it to edit it.
Oh my
it
god.
yeah. So like I said, it looks a lot like Premiere. A
Mhm.
lot of the windows and stuff, how where media gets imported and where media gets, the bins. Actually, I don't
Mhm.
even think it has a bin system. This Filmora doesn't. I don't believe Filmora has a bin system.
Oh
Um,
god.
so, but then everything else, where the bins and where the media are is
Mhm.
exactly where it's in relation to the timeline, and then the monitor above the timeline where you see all your cuts and stuff like that. And then you have your other, like, your controls, your media controls, where you can adjust effects and color and stuff like that, is above the bins and the media import. So like I said, very much like a standard Adobe Premiere layout. So anyone that's even like played with Premiere will probably feel a little bit more comfortable with Filmora 9,
Mhm.
just by its layout. Like I said, this is a software that very much is, we've done everything for you.
Mhm.
It has built-in effects, transitions. Um, Ren, as you're getting into photography,
Yeah.
you might not have heard this term before, but you might learn it later. It's called a LUT. Uh,
Yes. Yeah, I do know about LUTs. Yeah.
which, correct me if I'm wrong, Acorn lookup table, right?
I know what it does. I don't know the acronym
Yeah.
though.
So a LUT is basically like a profile for colors.
Mhm.
So you have something that's you take your white balanced and slightly color corrected, or I guess not slightly your properly color corrected and white balanced footage, and you apply a color profile over it.
Mhm.
And it will make it'll change the colors in very specific ways.
Yeah.
So this has built-in LUTs, and the LUTs that are built into this are named after, or at least designed after, already existing looks. So The Walking Dead has a LUT in here. Game of Thrones has a LUT. I'm trying to think of some other name. Like I think 300 has a LUT in this,
Hmm.
or a LUT based on it, or designed after it.
Right.
There are transition effects that are um all sorts of vlogger fancy, swooshes and zoom ins and then zoom outs quicks. There's no basic fade to white, fade to black color, or
Hmm.
film dissolve transitions in this. Everything is like within 3D space, or like a weird zoom in, zoom out, or some sort of weird swirl. I spent a lot of time trying to find just like a basic film dissolve,
Hmm.
because I was playing around with a lower third or like a title thing. And one of my biggest pet peeves is when something like that just kind of disappears.
Okay.
Um, I don't like when things just kind of disappear on the screen. I
Hmm.
like a, I like it to just dissolve.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I was trying to find like a dissolve for just some text that I put on the screen, and I could not find it. It was not in transitions. There's no opacity controls. So if
Hmm.
you're doing any video editing and you want something to be on screen, but you don't want it to be, opaque, you want it to
Right.
be, a little opaque, a little see-through.
Hmm.
So if it's like a network, uh, or some sort of logo that you need to have in the corner, but you don't want it just to be bold and right there in the corner,
Hmm.
there's nothing that you can do about that.
That's
No
kind of
opacity
dumb.
no opacity controls at all, which is a
Really?
very which is a very, very basic
Yeah, that
photo
seems
editing.
very standard. So for reference, I don't really have a whole lot in like video editing experience, but I have used like Vegas. I've used Sony Vegas
Mhm.
15, and while it's not exactly the best thing in the world, it's functional and it does have like it has core features, and like I know I could do that. Like that's not necessarily a difficult
Mhm.
task to like apply an opacity meter or something. But that's really like that's a big issue if it's lacking on those kind of features. Is that just
Yeah.
what it was
Yeah.
lacking in the free version, or do you know, or what?
So I looked around the website, and there seems to be a couple different versions of Filmora. So I'm not sure
Mhm.
if that was just Filmora 9
Okay.
that was missing those features.
Yeah.
But that being said, there's a couple different versions that you could buy. Like you could buy like a 1 year license, which was like $60,
Mhm.
I think. And then you could buy a bigger version, or like a lifetime version for, no, maybe it was like a 1 year license for $40 and a lifelong for 60, something like that.
Okay.
But
That's
all
not
like
bad.
Yeah. I honestly,
it's
when like hear that price, I'm actually a little bit surprised because
yeah.
what was it? Vegas 9 times out of 10. The only reason why I really consider Vegas is because it's a one-time purchase. And
Hmm.
I'm personally of the opinion, like, I don't want to pay a monthly subscription fee. I'm not that kind of guy.
Yeah.
But that was expensive. That was like $400 to like acquire
Hmm.
that. So just being able to get like the entire thing for 60, that's not necessarily bad by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah. Um so yeah, the prices and stuff. I have a few more grievances with it.
Hmm.
A lot of the cutting and trimming is very clunky.
Mm.
The zooming in and the zooming out of the timeline uh just does not feel good. Like I don't feel like I'm accurate with it.
Hmm.
Um and so there's also like another thing that to me is pretty standard is being able to do a in and out point on a piece of video. So like we take a section of this podcast, and I let it run for a minute, and I wanted to
Hmm.
hit, control I for in, and then control O for out. And what that would allow me to do would be to copy that or make a sub clip or something like that, so I could use that and piece that together.
Okay.
The only there You can only cut and it would stutter for a second when you hit cut instead of just placing the cut. You would
Mhm.
hit the cut button. You'd I believe it was like Control B. So you'd hit Control B, it'd stop for a second, and then keep going, which felt very strange and clunky because I wanted to just kind of keep going.
Right.
And the other part of that was it was an actual cut in the file.
Okay.
It wasn't a marker for a sub clip.
Right.
There was like no sub clipping, right? So I couldn't just take this file and I couldn't make other multiple smaller files of it.
Mhm.
That just sounds like just so ass backwards.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if I'm just spoiled. Right, that's what I'm trying to decide. I'm looking at this. I'm like, am I just spoiled? Right. I've been a power user of Adobe Premiere. Now, I'm
Mhm.
not a great video editor. Video in general has never really been like my favorite thing to work with,
Mhm.
especially when I was in university. I was always more focused on radio and audio
Mhm.
stuff.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I just was kind of spoiled and I got very used to a certain set of ideas and practices.
Mhm.
But that to me, you're right. It felt ass backwards. I'm like, why can I not make a sub clip of some sort? And maybe I didn't spend enough time, but it should have been very apparent
Mhm.
what tools did what. And so yeah, I couldn't seem to find it. Um, so that felt very strange. Um, let's see. So like I said, a lot of like basic effects or transitions just seemed like not as existent. Audio felt like trying to adjust audio volume
Mhm.
in doing like keyframes, it seemed really finicky. And that could have been on my mouse. Honestly, my mouse has been acting up a little bit lately. Anyone that's been watching my streams will see that my mouse is probably on the fritz, on its way out. um
That's just your excuse for not getting those headshots. I gotcha.
no, I see. I People who watch my stream know that I can't click heads to save my fucking life. Um, that's why, like, when I play Insurgency, I play Breacher. I'm a fucking spray and pray and move really fast kind of player.
Mhm.
What actually happens is like if I because I have the toggle to aim, I'll try to hold it down, and it'll just kind of like freak out and like go in between aiming and not go between ADS and not. It was
Mhm.
very strange.
Hmm.
Um, so it could just be that my mouse was finicky, but trying to like do any sort of audio leveling um was not great. Uh Not a whole lot of control. So what I did was I downloaded from Pixabay some stock footage of like a beach, like some drone footage on the beach,
Mhm.
some, time lapse of a city highway, um, all that kind of shit. And just kind of played around with it and checked all the transitions and stuff. The very basic color control. I don't even remember. I might need to like open this up, but I don't remember seeing a. Oh no, there is a white balance in it.
Mhm.
But the white balance isn't great.
Oh, great.
It's not like super accurate.
Mhm.
And there's no, if I remember right, there's no. So a lot of software will have a eyedropper.
Mhm.
So I guess I'm white balanced in this, but let's just say because I have a incandescent light bulb, or at least a light bulb that looks incandescent,
Mhm.
has a lower color temperature instead of a higher color temperature. I'm wearing a white shirt, so maybe if my webcam wasn't white balancing properly, my white shirt would look orange. So a
Mhm.
lot of software, Photoshop, Premiere, Avid, Lightroom, what you can do is you can take a eyedropper and say, this here is supposed to be white, and it
Yeah.
will make this white and balance everything else around that.
Mhm.
So it'll make it look like it's supposed to be, so that the footage was shot at 5600 degrees Kelvin, which for people who aren't engrossed in photography and video, that's daylight. Uh, it didn't seem so. The white balancing didn't seem super accurate in my opinion.
Mhm.
it's like I said, it's just not great. I don't think anyone looking to really start out any sort of media hobby or career should look at Filmora and be like, this is a good investment.
Mhm.
I think this is a good time for anyone in middle and high school
Mhm.
or extreme novices who want to learn the basics, can play around with it,
Mhm.
kind of understand some basics of editing because it is nonlinear. That's nice.
Right.
You're not trying to do it with iMovie or uh
Fucking iMovie.
fucking iMovie, yeah, or Windows Movie Maker,
I
even though
was
it
gonna
doesn't
say,
exist anymore.
yeah.
So like
Uh
I think I don't mean to cut you off there, but I think you
no.
hit the nail on the head with these type of editing softwares
Mhm.
because I was hammered over my head in all my classes. It's either like, okay, yeah, the industry standard's either gonna be Avid, which is also garbage,
Yeah.
Mhm.
or Premiere, which I have wanted to yeet out of my fucking computer several times this past week. It just seems like it's any Adobe software recently has just been not stable, and it's been driving me up
Mhm.
the
Yeah.
wall. So like I think a lot of these like this one that you're talking about, and then another one that a lot of people, a lot of people like this is a great one, DaVinci Resolve.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
I've been hearing that one is actually fantastic, and I'm like, do I make the switch? I don't want to make the switch because I'm so like as you said, I'm a power user of Adobe software, so it's just like the best thing that Adobe software does is that everything is just synced up.
Mhm.
Yes.
So it's like I could sit there and I could start a project in Premiere. I could edit the audio and I could sit like right click it and say, I want to edit the audio in Audition, and then I can
Mm-hmm.
put an After Effects project in that same timeline at the same time. So it's like I don't want to have to make that move, even though I've heard so many great things about Resolve. And my biggest problem is that Premiere is just it's never stable. It's never been stable. I have the amount of times that I've cussed out Premiere because it crashed and I lost an entire project is insurmountable.
Yep.
Insurmountable. And
I
it's just ugh. But
I have thankfully never had it happen on a major project. I've always had it happen on little projects. But you're
oh
right. One of the biggest perks about Adobe Premiere,
Mhm.
and when I talk to people about like getting like software, if they're getting interested in doing their own media stuff, and they ask me what I use, I say Adobe products, not because that's what I just learned on, but also because it plays well. Like if you get the Adobe suite,
Mhm.
you can put your After Effects thing in it. You can edit things on Audition, and if you want, you can create things in Photoshop and implant it in there too.
Mhm.
Like it all just works seamlessly together. Um, but you're right, like the unstableness, the instability that becomes Adobe rendering and
yep.
exporting
Mhm.
is nerve wracking, especially if you're on a deadline.
Yeah.
Um, I but so for me, kind of getting back to Filmora 9,
Mhm.
if you want to start learning how to do some video editing,
Mhm.
I think this would be something that you can download and kind of get some of the
Yeah.
basics.
Yeah.
Maybe emulate some ideas that you have, but I do not think this should be your end all be all. I
Mhm.
think once you start getting some basics down, um, in some other concepts of editing and stuff like that, this would be babies first.
Mhm.
The once
That's
you
a good
start,
way to describe it.
yeah, this is babies first. This is your tricycle. It's time to move up to a bicycle at a certain point, and then that's when you start looking at Adobe Premiere, Vegas,
Mhm.
uh, maybe DaVinci, like you said. Um, so yeah, that's it. That's Filmora 9. I can't really recommend it in terms of actual use, especially
Mhm.
the free version because of the giant fuck off watermark. Like to me, that automatically when I did the export, and I did a like I said, I did a test export.
Mhm.
Um, did I already delete it? I might have already put it in the trash can.
That's how bad it
Probably for the
was.
best.
Get out of here.
um, let's see.
Oh
Because I'm
man.
actually kind of tempted to show it just with, like share my screen real quick. Um, is this it? No. So yeah, it just wasn't, like I said, not a lot of
Mhm.
practical uses for anyone outside of really just learning.
Yeah.
Um,
It's odd. So we're talking about Filmora, and like I even said, like I use Vegas. But if anything, like more than anything, it's just telling me to use Premiere instead. I know that you guys were like, it's unstable. I have just nonstop experience crashes with Vegas too, so I don't know if that's just like part of the business. I don't know. So I'm
It
just like,
shouldn't be
dude,
though.
maybe.
It
No, it
shouldn't
shouldn't
be.
be. You're totally right. But like,
yeah.
I don't know, dude. I normally am
So,
not the kind of guy that does like a monthly like subscription sort of thing, but
uh-huh.
for like just based on like what you guys are talking about, because for the
Mhm.
most part, when you guys were talking about Formora, I was like, yeah, these are kind of the same issues I experienced with like Vegas, not to like the insane degree of like there's no opacity, because that's fucking
Mhm.
dumb. Like
That
I
is
don't know how
super
you missed
dumb.
that part, but just in general, like even looking at it a little bit, I was like, yeah, this just reminds me of Vegas. I don't really see a difference really. So I don't know. Maybe I should
Yeah.
try out a Premiere
Can
and
I
see how that's all about.
so just so people know that I'm not exaggerating the fucking watermark, I'm gonna share my screen real quick.
Okay.
Um
We'll see if it breaks everything. Oh, it doesn't.
Oh my god.
Also, I want to point out, I don't know how well you guys can see it
Mhm.
on the stream, but you notice how that's opaque?
Yeah.
The fucking watermark itself is opaque.
Oh
Oh my
man. Listen, there's only
god.
so many opacity features they can allow.
It basically just says buy Filmora 9.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that is obnoxious.
Oh
Yeah.
man.
See,
So
I could
automatically.
imagine like maybe just like a faint like white one
Yeah.
that
Mhm.
but nothing that just obnoxious.
Yeah. So I actually this was the one thing that I put a LUT on, and this was like the Batman LUT.
Mhm.
It's actually slick looking.
Yeah.
If I were a scumbag, I'd say I shot that, but that's not mine.
I mean,
So yeah, and like I said, there's like no fade out and stuff like that.
Mhm.
It just was not great.
That's so weird. That's so weird.
Um,
yeah. And like, Danny, do you do most of your editing on Windows or Mac?
I'm a Windows user.
Windows user. I really wonder lately since I've been editing, like I've made the switch back to Windows just because I want to be able
Mm,
to have kind of not have to have like a Mac and a PC for gaming and Mac for editing.
Mhm.
yeah,
I've noticed most of my problems when it comes to any Adobe software literally has been me experiencing it on Windows.
yeah, I've noticed that too. I've used the Adobe products on Apple products in various different
Mhm.
circumstances, and that is something I've noticed. It does run a little bit more reliably on Apple products, and I don't know why.
Yeah.
Um, so that's Filmora 9. Like I said, I can't recommend it to anyone actually, wanting to run a channel with it
Mhm.
or any other projects with it. I recommend, you know, definitely learn his program. Babies first.
Mhm.
So that's Filmora 9. Um, we have some other topics here.
Yeah.
Which one are we talking about next, Ben?
Well, the next one's actually Slay the Spire. It's a game I've been playing off stream occasionally, just off and on. I don't have a
Hmm.
whole ton of time with it, but for those who don't know what Slay the Spire is, it's a roguelike card game slash dungeon crawler. So it's definitely a weird mix of things when it comes to that regard. I'll see if I can pull up some gameplay of it in a second. But it's actually super cool. It's a lot more impressive than I was thinking it was going to be. It was $25, but on sale when I bought it for about 10. I'm just grabbing some video of it right now. But yeah, so basically what it is off the start, you can pick a when you immediately start the game, you have one character unlocked, and basically every time that you win a combat or enter combat, rather, you gain 8 health, and you have like a certain amount of health pool, and you're really just trying to go through an entire series of dungeons with that one character. And every time that you beat a boss or like find treasure along those lines, you can get more cards to add to your deck. and then you can really just start to fine tune your deck as you play. Um, it's super cool. It's honestly like super great. The few things that like really caught my attention before I even played it is it has Twitch integration. I haven't gotten the chance to use that just yet.
That's what intrigued me the most when we started talking about it before we started the stream today.
Yeah, and as some like most people know, for me personally, I'm a big fan of Twitch integration just throughout like all of my games. I always am a big advocate of that because it really just adds like a unique dynamic, and as a streamer, it's just it's a fun experience. There's really no like downsides to it for me personally, and I finally got it on screen. But basically, as you start a round, you start at it's like a giant whale. It's basically Moby Dick, and he kind of just greets you into the level. And then the split second you start, you get an option of 4 different like things that you can have, and they're all kind of random. They'll either be positive perks, negatives, or trade-offs. And so, for example, you can gather relics, and relics will just help you. A good example is at the start of like a combat, you get 2 extra cards in your hand, and that's kind of how you do combat throughout the game. Is you're trying to like use cards to like do damage while also trying to mitigate damage, things along those lines. The biggest thing for me personally that I found enjoyable about it is that it's a game that easily makes you feel smart if you play right. Like like by a landslide. Because like the first few cards that you get, you don't think are probably gonna be super impactful when you first start playing, but like your third run, you're just like, okay, I already see exactly where this run's going. I'm going to run like a 0-cost card deck, and I'm going to like focus on just redrawing cards that I've already used and just focus on doing like as much damage as possible in the short amount of time. Or maybe I want to focus on poison, things like that, or just raw damage, or maybe just tank and just like slowly chip away at health bars and things along those lines. I don't know. I found it to be like a blast. I haven't gotten super far into it. I've probably done 4 runs. And they're honestly really long gameplay runs. My first one was probably about an hour long of just like one single run of me not really knowing what I'm doing. Of just sort of like, okay, sure, I'm kind of just wandering through this place. I'm grabbing cards that seem cool, whatever. But yeah, I don't know. It's a card game. There's nothing really super crazy about it when you think about it. But the more and more you play it, the more like if you like Hearthstone, you'll probably absolutely love this kind of game for sure. If you have like any interest in basic card games whatsoever, you'll probably really enjoy this because it does have while it's not just a card game because you are like basing what you're doing off of other people, it's still like it obviously has card game mechanics. I just found it really fun in that regard. Even as somebody that doesn't play a whole lot of Hearthstone, I played it in the past and I enjoyed it. I don't know. I found it to be a really fun thing. And after your first run, regardless of what happens, you immediately unlock another character. So this one, the first character is like combat oriented in a sense, where every time that you enter combat, you gain health. So you're essentially like life stealing back up after every combat, so that way when you get to the boss, you're not totally screwed. The next one is a very card drawing focused character, where like at the start of each round, you get 2 more cards than normal. His entire deck is based on drawing more cards, poison, things along those lines. And the third one was really interesting in the fact that it wasn't, out of all the characters, it was the least realistically card-based character, where what you were doing is you were just drawing abilities that function out of your turn, essentially. So, like, when you end your turn, you do a bonus amount of damage based on, like, a certain amount of abilities you have out, or something along those lines. I haven't really dived too deep into it. One of the cooler things, as it's, like, kind of getting showed right now, is the relic system. Kind of like in the same way that most roguelikes are. A good example would be like Binding of Isaac, where Binding of Isaac is really super heavily reliant on relics. Relics can make or break a like playthrough. I found that one out super fast, and one of the relics I got, which I thought was going to be horrible because it gives you a confusion status. What it does is it randomizes the cost of your cards. So, like, if at the start of the game, if you're just like, okay, I'm going for low cost cards, and then you get a randomized cost version, and it costs you all of your energy to like play one card, horrible. But if you're playing like a really high cost deck and you get that super early, that changes everything. It heavily will change the style of gameplay altogether. You'll go from like maybe I can make one card turn to like easily 5 without like any like struggle whatsoever. I don't know. I found it to be a lot of fun. I'm really curious to see like how the Twitch integration works.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you about next. You said you hadn't tried it yet, right?
Yeah. No, I haven't tried it just yet. To my understanding, the way it works is that it is essentially, I think they have control over the drops after a battle. I think that's one of the big things, as well as treasure locations and stuff along those lines. I'm not totally positive on that one. I'm probably gonna try that one out maybe next week. We'll see. But yeah, I don't know. I found it to be super fun. It's $25 full price, but I have seen it. Yeah, I've seen it go on sale multiple times for like anywhere from 10 to 15. So it's not exactly like a bad price whatsoever. I don't know. It's definitely one of those really. It's a very solid indie game. It's not an indie game. Like it's a card game. It's really hard to mess up a lot of the times, and even when they do mess up in terms of design, it's more into the player's benefit. So like, okay, a card's blatantly like super strong. People are going to make decks based on that kind of card. Versus like, oh, this enemy is super strong. I can't get past it. This is a frustrating mechanic. So I don't know. I found it to be really fun in that. You can upgrade cards, which is kind of getting shown right now. I don't know. There was a lot of like unique things that, I mean, grand scheme of things, it's a card game dungeon crawler. It really just kind of portrays that aspect. But yeah, I don't know. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask. I want to say about 3 or 4 hours into it so far. It's something nice to just kind of play when I just sort of feel like it. Like, it's not a game that I can actively personally just sit down and play for hours and hours on end. But like, I could easily see this being ported over to mobile. That's one thing. That's something I could easily see happening without it being any sort of struggle. But yeah, that's that for me personally.
As you were talking about, I basically just sat here and added it right to my wish list. Just like I'm really big on the Twitch integration stuff, as I was kind of telling you guys, because I love interacting with my chat as much as I can on my stream. So
yeah. Yeah, and I haven't had that much experience with it. This is one of the ones I've heard is really good about it. And
really, okay,
yeah, the experience I have with Twitch integration games, I've played a few. You mentioned Cluster Truck off stream,
yeah,
but I personally haven't tried that one. But I have tried Vermintide 2, which has a very fun mechanic to it. I've tried Dead Cells, and
yes, Dead Cells is really good one
I've
too.
tried. Yeah, well, they both really nail it. Like, they both really knock it out of the park in terms of those. And I've heard this one in terms of its Twitch integration compared to those. So I'm hoping it's at that same level. I'm not sure. But the nice thing is with something that's like card game based, it's a really simplistic mechanic, realistically. Like, you're not having to do a lot of design and other aspects. So like, for example, Vermintide, while it does have fun mechanics when it comes to its Twitch integration, sometimes they're really like null and void, and like they're not super meaningful or impactful to choices. But I'm assuming, based on just how simple this game is, the choices when it comes to Twitch integration are either going to be a lot more impactful or a lot more diverse than what you'd normally see. And you can kind of see this in Dead Cells as well, where like the game has a relatively simplistic design in terms of like how to play. The enemies aren't super crazy in terms of how diverse they are. You don't really have to worry about like enemies making really weird, irrational movements. So I don't know. That's one big thing when it comes to like Twitch integration, is sometimes it can be really unbalanced. Sometimes it could just be like hugely like off the curve, and that's one thing that occasionally happened in Vermintide, where like you'd be going through a narrow pathway and Twitch integration would show up, and it's like, would you like 2 fire enemy or like 5 fire enemies just like in every direction? You're just in a pit of death. That's an option that can happen. It's like, oh god, please save me. But But yeah, I don't know. I'm hoping that this has a very balanced Twitch integration. I want it to be hard because I think having a harder like difficulty from Twitch just makes it a lot more
Yeah.
meaningful. But I don't want it to be so blatantly difficult that like I do one run of it and I'm like, this it was just an unfun run. So I don't know. That'd be like my biggest worry. But yeah, that basically covers it for me in terms of that. If you guys have any
Cool.
questions, feel free to ask. Danie, you have any questions?
The only question I have is this standalone or are there like expansions or DLCs or
That's actually a good
microtransactions?
point. So it is a standalone game. That being said, it does have a very big modding community. I haven't really
Okay.
dived into it, but it does have workshop support, which is cool. That's super awesome. I really like when a game has workshop support, so that way I don't have to actively go out and like download some third party like program to implement mods into my game. Um from what I've seen, it's pretty expansive, which is nice because, like I was saying before, the enemies are relatively simplistic. You can kind of tell what an enemy's gonna do at the start of every turn, just based on like what's above their heads. So, for example, like one will have a sword. That means they're attacking for a certain amount of damage. You can kind of play off that. It's pretty easy to understand. So it's also easy to build around that sort of thing for a modding community. Like, okay, I'll make an enemy that just like does this kind of damage in this specific way or like focuses on these kind of stats. So, yeah, there's a big modding community to it. I haven't dived super into it. I would love to see what's happened in it. But yeah, I know that they've made new character classes. I know that. I'm sure they've made new enemies and I'm sure they've made new relics. It's just the fact that it's such a like it's a series of simplistic things that are really just interacting together to make a whole like a fulfilled experience. More than just like it's a game with a lot of like guns and all this shit where like every single detail has to be nitpicked. You know what I mean? So yeah. I'm sure it's fantastic. I'm probably gonna try it at some point, but I don't know when. But yeah.
Cool.
But yeah, that covers it for me. Just a short little spiel.
Yeah, and what's the price usually?
The price retail is 25. I've gotten
Okay.
it. I've seen it anywhere between 10 to 15 every couple of months. So
Awesome.
yeah. But
Cool.
yeah.
I don't think I have any other questions. You, Acorn?
I mean, I got the one out of the way with the Twitch integration stuff, so that's the biggest thing I just wanted to know about.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right. And then
Go
Acorns
ahead.
also wanted to talk about a game. Is that right?
Yeah, I do. Okay, so big hockey fan. I've worked for a couple hockey teams in the past, and for years and years and years, I've played one specific game when it comes to hockey. It's the only game that exists when it comes to hockey, and that's NHL. Brought to you by the lovely, lovely folks at EA Sports. And they just recently released the beta for the 2020 year, and it's so weird to say NHL 20. I don't know why, but my biggest gripe with this game, all right, they haven't changed it since 2015. Um, with a lot of the other EA games, they have this engine, and actually Battlefront 2 runs on this engine too. Now that I think of it. Frostbite. They haven't changed NHL's engine since 2015. Every other EA Sports game like FIFA and Madden, those both now run on the Frostbite engine. Like what you're seeing here, this is called the Ignite engine. And as I'm sitting here playing it, and actually I loved last year's. Last year's was a really cool change because it had added these this new mode called ones, where it's just basically like you and two other players are on a pond playing pond hockey, and it's just fun. Like just drop in. There's no rules. You could sit there and you could literally just deck someone out right onto the ice. You could deck the goalie out. It's fantastic. It's fun. It's fun arcadey hockey, and it's fun to play that mode. But the biggest problem with that from last year, and it still is carried over to this year, is EA has not figured out how to do proper networking. I'm sitting there, even in this beta, and even in last year's 19 mode, I'm sitting there and it'll just sit there and just lag out. All of a sudden, I have a frozen screen. I can still hear the audio, and then all of a sudden, the entire game just like almost like fast forwards.
Oh,
and I'm like, really? You guys are a multi-million-dollar company, $1 billion probably, and you haven't figured out how to do proper servers. Come on. Come on. And there's just like stupid little mechanic things here and there, like and this is going to get super inside baseball kind of hockey stuff, but the poke check feature, which is essentially where you take your stick and you poke at the puck to get it out from the player's control. That feature, anytime you hit that button, insta penalty, no matter what. In real hockey, you could sit there, like you could have, a forward poke check the defenseman and they get the puck out from them. And I just sit there and I was streaming it this past week. And I just was like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm done playing this beta, and I probably won't even buy it because I don't want to spend another $60 for what is essentially a paint job. It's essentially it's not even like a new paint job. It's just like, hey, let's go to the store and fucking get us some I don't know, you like that color red? Oh, that looks good. Let's go ahead and throw that on our fucking Ferrari, I guess. Our 1980s Ferrari, because we haven't done anything to improve this car at all. I just like, because I love buying it every year to play with my friend, like, everyone that I play with, like all my friends and all that. Like, I'm just like, none of us, I think, are interested in buying it again. Like, I might as well just stick with 19, or because I have an EA Access subscription, I might as well just stick with, getting it off of EA Access when it becomes free.
Yeah.
It's just like, I want someone else to come through and get the license for NHL from EA and give it another shot, because 2K used to have a chance to actually develop for it, and I think their last version that they've developed for was I think 2010. But since EA has that like locked in, deal with them, they're the only ones that can make freaking NHL game.
Yeah.
And it's the same problem happens with like your Maddens too, and your FIFAs,
Right.
and 2K, and with the basketball, and like I think NBA finally has 2 basketball games between EA and 2K. I don't know what to say. It's so infuriating as a hockey fan to have this, like, they don't, like, EA does not listen to fans.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Across the board, they don't listen.
Extremely accurate. Yeah.
So accurate.
Oh
like,
man,
guys, get it out of your skull. Like, I'm just gonna answer with my pocketbook. I'm probably not gonna buy it.
Yeah.
Hands down.
You said that it was running on Frostbite. I can't believe they're still like running these on Frostbite engine, because
no. This right here, this is Ignite engine. This isn't Frostbite.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, this game has not gotten Frostbite yet.
Okay. All right.
That's the stupid part. Like, I would love if they ran on Frostbite, but it's not.
Huh. Man.
Yeah.
I don't even know.
It's just so stupid, because like the Madden games too, like they're even getting like the cool story modes where it's like in a small town in Texas, one man tries to relive his future of playing football. And it's like, I want that for hockey. I want, Johnny McFucking Hockey to like sit there and into the wee hours of the night, sitting there, trying to go bar down like on the pond when the lights are up, and Johnny, come inside, I have to go to school. I want that experience, but for hockey. I like the football one is great. It's cool. Like, if you haven't played, it's called Long Shot. It's basically about this guy who had to like stop playing football in college and then is trying to get back into try to get into the NFL. I want that experience for NHL. I think they even have one for FIFA. I'm like, and they have like, there's one for NBA too. Now I think about it, like, where's my hockey one? Okay, where's my hockey one? It's just like hockey in this country in general. It's just seen as like, oh, hockey.
If you're not within like 200 miles or something of the Canadian border, hockey is really non-existent. Which out of like the main, like the sports people, you ask people to do like name all the sports you can think of, hockey being one of the, maybe top 5.
I think esports might be beating out hockey at this point.
Probably.
Like I think Overwatch League is like probably beating.
Yeah, which I love. I love going to hockey games and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You're right. It just kind of sucks that probably the most mainstream hockey video game
Yeah.
is not getting any love.
No, it's not.
Which
man.
I mean, NHL fans kind of get bit a lot as
Oh yeah.
as I've understood. I'm not big on like pro hockey or anything like that. But I've just heard NHL fans get the short end of the stick quite often.
Yeah.
It just seems like one more thing. It's like one more lash on the back.
It's just like, well, like, I guess like the one like nice, like there's two nice things that I liked out of the beta so far. There's this feature called, it's just literally, it's a play of the game feature like you would see in like Overwatch or Call of Duty. And it basically, it's a huge revamp to their like replay system where it's like you see someone score a goal and all of a sudden like the camera like spins around and all of a sudden like the puck goes in slow-mo, and then all of a sudden when it hits the back right here actually you can see it right here. It's like the play of the game feature that looks so cool, and like they haven't introduced it until this year, and like there's new broadcasters now too. So it's not the same like, and a young lady from Shawinigan came up with that buck. It's like I've heard that line so many times. I just turn off the commentary whenever I play. I'm saying I don't care.
Yeah.
So
So from what you've played so far, is this gonna does this have the same things in terms of microtransaction and loot boxes as FIFA Ultimate Team?
Yeah, because they have what's called a Hockey Ultimate Team. So it's the same thing that FIFA has, same thing that Madden has. It's the same system where I think if I were to pre-order this today, I would get a bag that essentially gets you like these cards that's like, oh, I have Connor McDavid and I had Dylan Larkin on my team now or whatever, and jerseys and all that, and so like yeah, it's still a thing.
Okay. Which, as I've understood, is a massive moneymaker for EA.
Yes.
Yeah.
Between FIFA and Madden's versions of it, I'm assuming the NHL game probably to a lesser extent, but still more.
Yes. Oh yeah. I mean, like if you go on like Twitch right now and look at all like the streams of people that are playing 19, not so much 20 probably, but if you're going look at 19, it's all gonna be like hut pack openings and whatnot, and so yeah, it's I don't know how much the packs cost. I'm not really interested in hut. Never have been.
Right.
But it's probably got to be a huge moneymaker.
Yeah.
And I mean, that leads us to our next topic, but I want to just make sure we don't have any other questions or thoughts that we want to get out of the way on this.
Yeah.
No, I hate it. Well, here's the thing. What's gonna end up happening is I'll probably just be like, yeah, I'm gonna go play it again.
Oh man. So
it's gonna be like that one friend, just like
hook, line, and sinker.
Yeah.
So one of the big things I was gonna say, because this is one of the horror stories that I hear about, like, namely sports games as a whole. I'm not a big sports games guy. I tend not to really play them, but it tends to be the issue of that, like, that microtransaction system where it blatantly just gives you an advantage. I hear that a lot. Like, of just like, oh, you throw down some money and you just get blatantly better characters than other people, and then you're just better. Like, you just win.
Destiny.
Yeah.
Sorry. That's what going to my throat there.
I'm just wondering, like, how big has that been an issue when it comes to the NHL games, namely? Just because
honestly,
I haven't really, like, had any experience, or I don't really know personally. The big ones I hear about is FIFA. That's real.
It's kind of the name of the game when it comes to these games. Like I was, I listed off like, you open a pack and you get like freaking like sometimes you would get like the older players, like you get Gretzky in a pack, and that's just like he'd obviously OP'd essentially to hell and back and rated like 99 almost. That's the kind of the point of these. Like you can sit there and you can trade these cards back and forth. And it's like, let's say I wanted Connor McDavid or whatever, he's one of the top players right in the league, and I wanted that card, and I had, here's a bunch of cards that I don't necessarily need anymore, kind of thing. So let's just go ahead and I can trade back and forth, and I can go and then play against someone and wipe the floor with them with these cards. It's kind of the name of the game when it comes to these ultimate teams. So when I made the joke about Destiny 2 earlier, they
Yeah.
fixed it since the launch, but
Yeah.
you know, I could with Destiny, it's like you could go in and just buy like the best gun of the game, like
Yeah.
with microtransactions, and it's just like
Mhm.
that's like, you know, I don't understand, like part of the point is to, you know,
Mhm.
sit there and grind out and like, you know, these raids and stuff, and you know, go through the game. But it's just like if you're gonna sit there and just buy the best game and then go into like the competitive mode Crucible and sit there and like, you know, click my
Mhm.
head every single time you get out there, it's like it's pointless. Well,
Yeah.
like it's more of an odds thing with the NHL here, where it's like,
Mhm.
okay, I'm not gonna get, you know, your Sidney Crosby or your
Right.
Connor McDavid right out the pack. You know, there's like probably, you know, a 1 in X chance, which is I think a lot of these transactions and these loot boxes where they
Mhm.
want to, especially in the UK, they want you to list the ads of
Right.
getting, you know,
Right.
your Connor McDavids or your Sidney Crosbys or, you
Mhm.
know, for Destiny, your Gallahorn, essentially, you know.
Right.
It's they want to list those, which is
Yeah.
why I like Overwatch, which I know we're gonna talk about with their loot
Mhm.
boxes in a little bit, which is why I like Overwatch, because it's just cosmetics, it's skins.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So
And I think a big part of it. So you said you can trade characters around and
yeah,
trade stuff out, right?
yep. You could put up cards for auction too. It's like, you know, I don't want Sidney Crosby anymore. I fucking hate Crosby because I really do.
Mhm.
I'm gonna put him up on the trading block.
Mhm.
Say like I want 1,000 in-game credit for that.
Mhm.
So you can sit there and trade them off, or auction them off. That's what I'm trying to say is auction them off, or you can
Right.
sit there and trade them off with, you know, whoever wants the card, and I want, you know my Pebble Datsuk or whatever.
So and there's a value out in that essentially, right?
Yeah, hands down.
Right. So I think this is a great way to segue into the next conversation here,
Mhm.
Mhm.
which is that the regulatory body in the UK, that oversees gambling, basically said that we see problems with how gaming companies do things, but, and this is a big but,
But
there's no like basically what they said was that there's no official way for them to regulate it because there's no value out for a lot of these systems.
Mhm.
And the value outs that you see oftentimes result in in-game currency. So unless people go and get into like a gray market third party situation like they do with CS:GO skins,
Mhm.
UK regulators can't do anything about it. Is essentially what they said to Parliament. Um, that's like the very, very broad strokes.
Mhm.
Um, and I think it's just really important and interesting that we talk about it because one story that we talked about, and including, you know, how the loot boxes and stuff work in this NHL game, is that Overwatch, and you mentioned Overwatch,
mhm.
has had $1 billion spent.
I
Has
contributed to some of that.
yeah. So let me just say it again: $1 billion spent on Overwatch loot boxes and skins.
Mhm.
Uh, FIFA Ultimate Team, all those microtransactions make up a massive, massive
Mhm.
percentage of revenue for EA,
Mhm.
and the other systems similar to it in NHL and Madden and NBA
Mhm.
uh, contribute greatly to the uh, to the profits of these companies. And it's become a problem that we've talked about it before, and that it relies on psychological trappings of gambling, but regulators in a lot of countries aren't sure of what to do about it.
Mhm.
They see it as exploitative. They see it working on vulnerable people who don't maybe understand that they are spending real money. Um, it's used to circumnavigate gambling laws, like we've seen with CS:GO,
Mhm.
with Syndicate, and what's the other person's name that I'm
TJ
T Martin?
Martin. Or
Yeah.
yeah, T Martin. Yeah.
Um, so we've seen people use it to
Mhm.
circumvent gambling laws and regulations. Um, yeah, in the US, we've seen Senator Howley, who we'll probably talk about next week because he introduced a bill
Mhm.
um, that on the face I'm not with, um, and relates to this kind of topic.
Mhm.
But we saw him earlier this year introduce a bill related to loot box not loot box gambling, but loot box regulations.
Mhm.
We've seen Belgium ban them,
Mhm.
and we've also seen other. I mean, kind of related to this problem, the GTA Casino
Yeah.
update
That
has
one
been
was
banned in
super
some.
fascinating to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have my own opinions
So
about that one personally as well.
yeah. So
But
I've introduced a lot of things, but let's just talk about the just regulations and how we're seeing things right now. We can talk about GTA. We can kind of talk about it.
mhm.
You guys can put out your own opinions. I kind of introduced
Mhm.
and left it broad for that purpose.
Yeah. So mainly, well, I'm immediately gonna dive into the GTA thing more than anything, just real quick. Is that the
Hmm.
fact that like one, I think the reason why it got banned more than anything is, well, there's two different reasons. One of them is just like a lot of countries just don't allow casino use. Like that's just inherently a thing.
Yeah.
So when you portray a casino, you even see the same thing in Rainbow Six Siege, where there was like strip clubs and things like that, and they actually had to tone those down for certain countries in order to let those be in the game in the first place. And then I think they even
Really?
turned it down for like globally, just that way they don't have to worry about it anymore.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the big reasons. But the thing that I really have an issue with is like it portrays itself as a casino and it's a loot box system. And I think like it's an 18 plus game. It's Grand Theft Auto. If
Yeah.
you're willing to put money into that, like you're an adult. At
Yeah.
that case,
Mhm.
I'm okay with it. You can do whatever you want. All right, whatever. When it's something along the lines of like this tends to be an issue with the sports games where they're rated E for everyone, but they still
Mhm.
have those mechanics into it. So like you're still while it might not seem like it, you're technically still marketing it to children. That's a big issue because kids don't really fully understand that. I've heard a few things where like sometimes kids didn't even know that it was like real money they were considering on some of these things. And
Mhm.
they're just like, oh yeah, I'm just going to buy a bunch of things and just hope for the best. And then one, they didn't get it. And two, they spent like $500 off of their parents' credit card. And it's just things like that. Like, I have a huge issue with that. And there's
Yeah.
no real regulation directed at that specifically. Whereas, like, oh, GTA, because it's Grand Theft Auto and it's the target of every single, like, regulation ever when it comes to gaming. It's like
Yeah.
the violence in video games, like, thing. Like, it's just immediate. It's an instantaneous, like, nope, it's out. It's going. It's gone.
I'd say Joe Lieberman and Tipper Gore just perked up.
Yeah. Yeah. That's,
Joe Lieberman. That name just takes me back and gives me like freaking nom flashbacks almost.
that's that's my big issue with it because I feel like it's just people are being like they don't pay really any attention to it, and I understand it's
Mhm.
not like everybody in the world's gonna be like microtransactions are the biggest crime ever invented because like obviously they're not, but they are something that people need to be aware about to some degree.
Mhm.
Is like
Mhm.
if you have a kid and they're playing a mobile game, chances are that mobile game has something like that. There's very unlikely that that's not the case. You see it with like Candy Crush, you see it with basically any fucking mobile game out there. But
Yeah.
like, yeah, I don't know. I have a big issue with that specifically, where it's like Grand Theft Auto just gets targeted because it's Grand Theft Auto. FIFA,
Exactly.
a
Yeah.
game that can be upwards of ages 3+, is like totally fine with that. And like that in itself is an issue. I feel like either A, you need to up like the age on that, or B, you need to just not have that
Mhm.
as a fucking mechanic. But yeah, I don't know.
So
'Cause-
you actually kind of did you have a thing, Acorn?
No. No.
Oh, so you actually kind of gave me a thought because the ESRB,
mhm,
they don't rate
yeah,
online interactions, right?
well, so if I
It's a part of
remember
the.
right, they do have something on the case that does talk about loot boxes, but it doesn't
Mhm.
actually affect it doesn't affect the ESRB itself. I don't believe.
Okay.
I could be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure it doesn't at all.
Okay. Because I was just thinking about the whole uh the how they say that online interactions and stuff like that aren't rated. And so I was wondering if they're
Mhm.
getting around that by doing that, by being, well, this is only on the online, you can only access this by being online or something like
Mhm.
that.
Yeah.
So yeah, the
Yeah.
ESRB, obviously being a self-regulated thing,
Yeah, it
uh,
doesn't hold any real value in the
it
most part.
doesn't.
Yeah.
And
Well, I
And
was
it's
curious.
especially
Sorry, didn't mean to cut you guys off.
no, I was
As
say it. Go ahead. Go
Yeah. As we're
ahead.
sitting here talking, I was kind of curious and like wondering what Overwatch was rated, and it's only rated teen.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was like, I guess there's not a whole lot of blood in it. It's pretty much just particle effects and whatnot when you get shot. So
Yeah.
you would wonder when it comes to the whole like loot box stuff if that would have raised it up. But again, like I said, it's cosmetic. It's not like it's like
Right.
changing the outplay or outcome of the game or anything. But I can see someone be like, you know
Yeah.
what? I really want that one Reinhardt skin really bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel so I think that some loot boxes I'm not a fan of like every loot box ever should be banned. Because I feel like in cases, for example, Overwatch, I actually feel like they do it fairly well. They're really
Yeah.
easy to obtain.
Yeah.
Like that's
Yeah.
not a difficult thing to acquire. And if you want to support and you want to throw money to get loot boxes, that's an option. But you don't have to by any means. Hell,
No.
even if you like just get duplicates, you still get a currency to just buy whatever you want. Like there's no real fundamental loss there. But when it comes to something along the lines of like introducing a great example is the sports games like we were talking about, where while you consider them in a sense like trading cards, it's a gameplay increase. Like
Mhm.
you're just better in the game over that. So
Mm.
you're quite literally just paying for the chance of being better than other people. And that in itself is an issue to me because like a game and the whole purpose is the gameplay. If the gameplay is just entirely like, oh, it's easier now. I'm winning more often because I paid like $20 and I got this guy. Like to me that's a problem. It would be one thing entirely if it was like because the big thing in itself is these loot box systems aren't like they realistically aren't fundamental. You can acquire the exact same thing with using a loot box, like the same kind of loot box system, without paying real world money. Like you could just put an in-game currency in just an in-game currency and have no way to acquire it other than that. And I think that'd be fine. I think that'd be totally okay. But like the split second that you introduce the ability to pay money, and the split second that it's something that kids can access easily, like granted, maybe not getting like your parents' credit card, but that still happens all the time. Hell, you see it like even without games, but like in specifics of this where it has a gambling feeling to it, like it's very addictive. Like it or not, it's still a very addictive thing. It's a couple of dollars to like possibly get a new character. You're like, oh, I'll just roll that a few times. I didn't get it. I'll roll it a few times again. Didn't get it. I spent $50. And it's like it or not, that's a thing. I don't know. I have a big issue just with that in itself. The fact that like it's still something so easily accessible to children, and I think I think I looked it up just real quick. But they don't call it like microtransactions or realistically anything on the box. They just call it in-game purchases, which can realistically be considered DLC. Like DLC technically can be an in-game purchase if you can buy it through like the in-game like thing. So there's no real difference in that. Like Destiny, for example, you could buy like DLCs in that. You could also buy microtransactions with I forget what they are, with their very specific
silver.
drops.
What is it?
Yeah, there's silver, and then there's those specific loot drop things that have a chance to drop like really good gear or really good cosmetics.
It's been so long since I've played Destiny 2.
Yeah.
I can't even remember what it's called now.
Yeah, but there is that like thing that you could do in that. So what's saying like maybe a parent doesn't know. Maybe a parent just doesn't know, and they're like, oh, okay, it might be DLC. Who knows? I don't know. And like, okay, sure, there's DLC in it. There's also like microtransactions. I feel like that one should be listed as a totally different thing, like entirely separate, because that holds no real value realistically. I don't know. There's a huge amount of issues with it. There are games that like nail the microtransaction thing well. We talked about Overwatch. Fallout Shelter is another one where like quite literally sometimes Fallout Shelter like you do like a menial task and you get like something for free. Or you'll get like 5 things for free and it's nothing. So like there's no real value held there, and it's not like you're limited. And a good example of that specifically would be something along the lines of Dead by Daylight, where while the challenges are limited like dailies, dailies in itself are something to just it's meant to keep you playing the game more and more and more. Whereas,
Yeah.
like, if it was something just baked into it where, like, they just reset after they're done, that acquires the same kind of purpose. I don't know.
Hmm.
There's a whole spiel that I have about this specific thing. But,
No, I'm right there with you, honestly, on it. Like, I think one of the worst problems of it is that it's preying on children
mhm,
to like something they don't understand. Quite frankly,
yeah.
they don't understand the ramifications of gambling and how sometimes if you do it too much in real life with actual money, it can ruin your life.
Mhm,
And
Hmm.
it's this. I saw this video recently from a channel called Nerd City. If you haven't watched their videos before, phenomenal videos. But they were talking about how Jake Paul and what he does uh, basically focuses on children and
mhm,
is a predator on have like wanting them to buy this merch
yeah.
and like how it like with specifically it comes back to like the morning cartoons thing.
Mhm,
And I think the law might play the same thing in the UK where it's like you can only advertise toys for a specific amount of time to children.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with some of these loot boxes in certain games like that. Like um and also, I honestly want to say it comes down to parenting. Like, if
Mhm,
you don't know what your kids are doing on the Xbox, that sounds like a you problem. You
Yeah.
yeah.
know,
I
I
I,
think
I'm
I.
kind of agree, but I also kind of feel like the fact that they, like you said it yourself, they do prey on children. It's
yeah,
not
Mhm.
like they're just like, oh, they're kind of there. You can do it if you want. It's
Mhm.
like, no, you can do this, and then you'll get all the things that you ever wanted. And it's like
mhm.
that sort of thing for a child. Half the time, it doesn't really matter what the parent says on that one. It's like, okay, well,
I,
like I really want it though, and then they're just like, okay, I'll spend a little bit of money. My mom won't know. I just grabbed the card
Mhm.
for like a little bit and spent $5, whatever.
Mhm.
a
But
funny little side story. When I was younger, I was at the video store and wanting to rent a game. I was looking around. I thought myself, I think 13. I rode my bike up to the video store, and
mhm,
there was a kid in there with his mother.
mhm,
And like I was Mr. Goody Two Shoes when I was younger. Oh my
Mhm.
god, it was ridiculous. And I saw this kid was like going up to Mortal Kombat 3 on the Genesis, and he was like, "Mommy, can I rent this?" And she's like, "Oh, I don't know, sweetie." And I leaned over and said, "He can't rent that because it's MA13." This is when it was called MA13. He can't rent it because it says MA13 on it. He's not old enough. And he just gave me the biggest stink eye. They walked away. I was like, I did something good today. And I look back at it, I'm like, God, I was a prick.
I see. I've been doing a lot of thinking on the, oh, it comes down to parenting
mhm,
argument that comes out of this, and my whole thing has kind of become, you know, the raise your kids right, kind of going back to the Joe Lieberman, Tipper Gore getting upset about rap lyrics,
mhm,
in Mortal Kombat. The devices back in, early video game era and
yeah,
media devices in general did not consistently update and be interactable, right? The
right,
TV, sure, like you were being advertised Yu-Gi-Oh cards through a
mhm,
fucking and Pokemon through a half-hour show, but there wasn't a button that appeared on the TV that said, "Do you want to buy Pikachu?"
mhm,
Right?
Mm,
"Do you want to buy a booster pack of Yu-Gi-Oh cards right now?"
yeah,
And the whole idea that watch your children requires you to be over your child's shoulder
yeah,
every moment so they don't accidentally click that button,
yeah, exactly.
right?
And you
That's
just
that's
can't
a
realistically have that time. Like that's just
yeah.
not a real
yeah.
thing that you could do.
So like I said, and a part of it we
Mhm,
know they have talked about it at industry events. We know that they design the games for accidental clicks, and you can't refund it at a certain point.
mhm,
If it's been like past certain days and you don't see your, which I think people need to be more like me and just obsess over their bank account sometimes and look at every single statement. Have the app on your phone and look at every single statement. Um, but like if you don't catch it at a certain point in time and a kid accidentally clicked it, I think that's a
mhm,
big part of it too. Especially because they pop up all the time. We talked about Raid Shadow Legends last week.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, fuck, let me open up Raid Shadow Legends real quick and show you how many fucking, windows pop up right
Mm-hmm.
when you open the app. And then there's stores all over the place. And so
Yeah.
a kid who's trying to avoid it, I mean, all right, right there, my daily. Okay, close that. Oh, hey, look, buy this $30 pack. Oh, hey,
Mm-hmm.
look, buy this $10 pack. Right? I go to the shop to claim stuff. Hey, look, 99 cents, $10, $50. You know,
Yeah.
go to the gem shop. So there's the potential for misclicks in purchasing like that. I could see really being a big problem. And the idea that people just say, well, watch your children better
Mm-hmm.
bothers me.
Yeah. I feel
Um,
like I do agree, like obviously people should watch their children more when it comes to that sort of thing. Of course, I'm not arguing that. But at the same time, like just because that's like a thing, like they're still preying on people, even if it's not
yeah.
children. Like people still have addictive personalities. Like that's very much a thing. Even somebody
Mhm.
like 24 years old will just be all like, it's like $10, whatever. Doesn't
Yeah.
matter. And then it's like they'll just do it a couple of times, and then like spoiler alert, you spent $50. Like regardless of if you're a kid or not, granted kids are much more susceptible to it, that's still a
Mhm.
really dangerous thing. And I don't know, just having the ability to do that at home, like the nice thing about going to a
Mhm.
casino is like you actually have to go there. You have to
Mhm.
actively choose and decide that you are doing it. And usually on that time you like make a budget of like how much you're going to spend. Like okay, I'll spend $100. And like what if I win a decent amount, if I get to like the 50 and I'm just like I'm losing nonstop, maybe I'll leave. Whatever. If I'm winning a lot, maybe I'll stay. I don't know. But like the instant gratification that rewards is
Mhm.
in itself super addictive. Like that in itself is a big issue.
But I think if you actually go to a casino, to like an actual real life casino, I think you're actually gonna, you know, see the instant loss. You'd think.
Mhm.
I know,
Right.
obviously, for people that have gambling problems and addictions like that,
Hmm.
it's maybe like, oh, I mean, I'm gonna win it back. I'm gonna win it back. That kind of thing. But I think if you
Yeah.
actually go to one, I think it teaches you like, oh, I lost this much money. I'm done. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah,
that's how I
exactly.
usually I go to the casino. That's how I usually do it. I'm like,
Mhm.
well, I've lost the $30. I'm gonna stop now. Kind of
Yeah.
thing. Or if I'm up, I'm out. Kind of thing. So.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm kind of curious because a casino, there's the value in value potential for value
Hmm.
out. Th- That has been, and that's what really defines the gambling aspect in so many in states, in countries, and stuff like that. Is that value out?
Hmm.
And I think gaming companies are really hiding behind the gray market, the third party systems.
Hmm.
Uh, you know, uh, Obviously the CS:GO situation, right?
Yeah.
The basically online casinos, where gun skins are essentially just poker chips,
Yeah.
right? That is essentially what they are, and
Hmm.
we've talked about this before. Where to me, gun skins in the CS:GO, when you go to those online casinos,
Yeah.
they're just poker chips, and it's a lot like playing online poker. Um,
Yeah. Hell, I know some people that have like done like the CS:GO stuff, and well, I distinctly remember one of my friends getting like a $400 skin, and like he was so excited, not because like it was a cool skin, it was just immediately like I just got $400, and then that was it, and it's like
yeah.
that like
So,
granted, cool, good for you, but like
mhm.
Mhm.
that's still a massive issue. Like that in itself is pretty scary.
so just kind of based on that, do you guys think that we're going to? Do you think that we're going to see any effective ways to combat what is essentially, I mean, if we get down to it, like I said, they're poker chips. It's
Hmm.
online gambling. It is, online casino, and it's we're just getting the means through another video game, through another game. Do you think there's any effective way to combat that and to curb that influence?
Just off the top, well, my biggest issue is that they're either going to under-regulate or they're going to heavily over-regulate. Chances are it's going to be heavy
Yep.
over-regulation. That's
Yep.
immediately my thought. And that scares me because, like I said, I feel like there are cases where loot boxes and things like that can actually have a place and they can have a
Mm,
meaningful like spot without being predatory. Like Overwatch is easily the best example because
Yeah.
it's something so simple to get
yeah.
that really doesn't hold actual value. Like,
Mhm.
it's skins that you can't even trade. You can't do anything
Yeah.
with them aside from they're just tied to your account. That's it. That's all. So, like, in that case, I don't really have an issue with it. When it comes to something like the sports games, for example, where you could spend in money and you get something that you could trade with other people. Like, you can technically give value to that thing and then trade it based on the value of something else. Like,
Mhm.
that's a little suspicious on my end.
Mhm.
But yeah, I don't know. I'm sure that there will be some regulation. I'm very just worried about how much.
Yeah.
That's realistically it.
Cool. What about you, Acorn? How are you feeling about it? Like in terms of like ways to combat the problem? Do you think we need to combat it, or whatever else?
I almost wonder if maybe like there should be a separate like governing body like there is like what's the governing body for gambling? What is it called? The
The
Gambling
gaming
Commission?
commissions.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the Gaming Commission. Yeah, maybe there almost should be like a separate governing body that's maybe
Mhm.
like run by the ESRB or something that
Yes.
overlooks those type of things and
Mhm.
has a better insight on it compared
Mhm.
to your Joe Liebermans of
Mhm.
of the current day that are trying to put this bill that you're talking about, Danny, through. Is it a state bill or is it federal?
So it's Senator Howley from Missouri is introduced a loot box bill, um, and it had two Democrats who I can't recall the names of off the top of my head. Um,
So it's a federal bill.
support it. It's federal, yeah.
Okay,
It
it's not. I
is.
remember hearing about a state only bill at one point.
There was one introduced in Hawaii, I
Is
believe.
that where it was?
I believe so, but I don't think it went anywhere. Um, yeah, I want to say Hawaii. Someone introduced a bill there, right after EA had the whole Battlefront 2
Mhm.
thing blow up in their face. So yeah,
Yeah.
Howley's bill
Yes,
is
that's
the
right. I remember.
first federal bill, not a
Mhm.
Okay.
state bill.
Yeah.
Um, related to this, and I think we discussed at that point that the language of his bill actually allowed people to um or allowed the government to say basically um any sort of gambling in a game could be banned. So like the game corner in Pokemon
Mhm.
would, constitute that and would require regulation. That's how the language of his bill worked. Um so yeah, that's kind of that bill. I'd have to go back and reread it.
Mhm.
And we talked to, or at least I talked privately to friend of the show, Taylor, who does the Just Think podcast.
Mhm.
I was gonna have him come on at some point to look over talk about some of the bills and stuff like that, as he's going through school, and is
Oh,
a little bit better equipped to talk about legal bills and stuff than
Mhm.
I am. um, I have a very minimal education in law, which was
ditto.
basically a media law 101 course.
Mhm.
You got
So
one more than me. I think I took like American government in college, and that was about it.
Yeah. Oh, man.
um so I don't see a lot of great options. I first off, I don't want to just let game companies
Mhm.
run free
Yeah.
and prey upon prey upon people and exploit and
Mhm.
whatever else. But I also don't want to see such broad legislation that can come in and get and fuck up
Yeah.
legitimate, fun, unexploitative
Mhm.
projects. It's kind of it's just something I cannot.
Yeah.
I'm in so many minds about, and it kind of tears me apart a
Yeah.
little bit.
Yeah.
At least how with what's been proposed so far.
Mhm.
Maybe the gaming commissions do need to come in.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think maybe the gaming commissions would probably be better if we just say, if you're putting money into something outside of of an upfront purchase, if you're going to be putting money into something um, for a random chance, maybe the
Mhm.
gaming commissions do need to get involved, just because that, we could
Mhm.
feasibly say, well, it's up to chance and
Yeah.
has monetary value, regardless if you can cash out, I
Mhm.
guess, maybe.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I think it would probably be better for a governing body like a gaming commission to be involved than to write legislation that can be used to censor art,
Yeah.
censor
Exactly.
art and
I
media.
I think at this point, like, just having government involvement is kind of just a necessary evil. Like, I don't think any of us really want it, but, like, at this point, it's kind of just like we don't have a choice otherwise, really. Like,
Hmm.
it's been tried and true that self-regulation isn't working. Like, it's just clearly not. Like, people are still manipulating
Yeah.
other people just to gain some easy few bucks or a lot of bucks.
Mhm.
And,
It's
like,
basically a damned if you do, damned if you don't kind of thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Exactly. Yeah, I don't know. Just as much as it sucks, I have to agree. I think that like
Yeah.
there does need to be at least some sort of like government regulation on it.
Hmm. Like I said, my main concern is if we allow, and maybe, like I said, maybe this would be something where um an executive body,
Hmm.
not necessarily a legislative body, if an executive body comes in to just oversee microtransactions as an aspect of the gaming commissions or gambling regulations. Because if we legislate it, if we allow lawmakers like Howley, or the Liebermans and the Tipper Gores of the past, and the other folks who, when I looked at who co-sponsored the current bill, uh, I see it as a way, and this is a big thing that I've talked about in different degrees,
Hmm.
being a way to censor art, essentially, um, and censor media, because that's what I feel video games are. They're art and media, and they
Yeah.
have purpose and points, and
Hmm.
they're satirical, and they make, they're valid pieces of art that if we allow legislation to be too broad, we can see them be um, regulated and censored in ways that we don't want them to be.
Hmm.
Um, and so I think kind of the epiphany I'm having right now is maybe a gaming commission, some sort of
Hmm.
EPA kind of situation, or gaming commission, like I said, or FTC. I don't know why I said EPA. I meant like FCC. I was going through all the acronyms in my brain. um, yeah, FTC or the FCC or some other media group, or like I said, gaming or gambling commissions that would have to oversee it.
Hmm.
And I don't think it can be industry run. Um, I don't think
Yes.
I don't think that the a self governing body. I think that the ESRB, and in movies, the what is it, the
MPAA.
MPAA,
Hmm.
and in radio it's NAB. I don't think those are the correct path to go. Um, at least not in this. Any other thoughts on this topic?
Nope. I think we pretty much covered it.
Yeah.
I think so, and we're getting to that point in time too for the
Hmm.
show.
Yeah.
And my brain is starting to like melt
Yep,
by
same
the
here.
No,
fact
I
that
feel it. My coffee is gone. I'm destroyed now.
I said EPA when talking about video games for some fucking reason. I don't know what my brain was doing.
Oh
Um,
man.
so let's go on ahead and end it here. Acorn,
Yes.
for the people who weren't here at the very beginning of the show,
Mhm.
tell all the wonderful folks where they can find you, what you're doing, and all that wonderful stuff.
I feel like you picked up this from Sean Evans from Hot Ones. Am I correct in saying that?
Uh,
It's almost identical.
you can
In a,
look
in a
at
good way.
that camera, that
That
camera,
camera.
that
That
camera.
camera. I love his
Um,
show, so I can see where you got that from. So you can find me on twitch.tv/ oh, thank you. I don't want to type that out. Same thing with Twitter. All my socials are the same thing.
Mhm.
There was gonna be a stream tonight, but I had too much fun chatting with these guys, and we went super long, and I'm so happy that we did that. That I'm exhausted, so they're probably not gonna be a stream tonight. But stream tomorrow, probably 8 p.m. Eastern. We're gonna be playing Surviving Mars, which is
Ooh.
City Skylines, but but on Mars.
Yeah.
So check that out tomorrow, 8 p.m. Eastern, maybe 9 p.m. Just follow me on Twitter. You'll find more about when I'll be streaming, and more than anything else. So
Right on.
Awesome.
Yes.
Ren, what's coming up on your
that's
channel?
me. So I've been on a Borderlands kick, as you guys all know. I've been doing it for
Nice.
like a month at this point.
Yep.
We're continuing our grind to level 80 on our second character. I'm even trying to consider trying to get onto the Borderlands streams themselves. They do streams throughout the days where they just host other people, and I'm considering trying to talk to them and see if I can get on one of those. But you can find me at twitch.tv/renditions. I also have a Twitter and Instagram where I'm now posting the photography pictures that I've been taking. I'm trying to post one a day. Let's see if that lasts, but we'll see. But yeah, that's basically all I have planned, is just doing lots more Borderlands. But yeah, that's me.
Coming up on my channel, I'm thinking about playing some games that I have that I've just collected through Twitch Prime. I have so many games on there that I feel like they at least deserve me to maybe do like an hour on stream at the very least. So maybe I've been playing around with the idea of doing like a 4-hour stream where I just play 1 hour of a game I got off of Twitch Prime.
Oh,
So that might be coming out. I've of course got a lot of art streams as I kind of start going through my own rebranding process, because of course I am. And of course Insurgency, Sandstorm, if I don't feel like doing any of those other things. So the podcast, guys, you guys can find us on Spotify. You can find us on Apple Podcast. You guys can find us on YouTube, and let me make sure that I put something in there right. There you go. So you guys can follow us on Spotify, subscribe to us on Apple Podcast and on YouTube. We would appreciate you guys sharing us with your friends. You guys can send a link to your friends through Apple Podcast or Spotify. Just say, hey, I found this cool podcast. Why don't you guys check it out? We'd also appreciate any reviews that you leave us on any of the platforms. If you guys go to Apple Podcast, feel more than welcome to give us a rating and review, and of course tell us what you guys think of the show, what we can change, how we're doing, or you guys can just say that we're jerks, and
yeah, we're horrible people.
You guys are jerks. I hated being here. This is stupid.
Yeah,
it's okay. I hated it.
I can't believe Acorn talked about NHL that way. I
can't believe he talked about it, period.
You guys can follow us on Twitter at NTNPod. A quick reminder that mugs are only available until tomorrow at 11:59 p.m. Chicago time. So make sure you guys get your celebratory 1-year mugs. We appreciate everyone that's shared the links to the podcast this month and entered to win some free games. Congratulations to all the winners. Once again, if you guys did win, we have tried to reach out to you guys, and if you haven't gotten your games, you have 30 days to redeem the prize. Otherwise, we take them back and we'll we'll give them away at another point in time.
Man, you give them a long time. When I give away games on my
right?
stream, it's literally like, all right.
Dude, I said like 30 minutes. I was like,
no,
give them
mine
a
is
day.
like 30 seconds. I'm like, all right, cool. Move on to the next person.
I'm just going by radio rules. Acorn, you know as much as I do.
Oh yeah, but literally, you have to be present to win this.
Yeah.
Oh man.
So yeah, thank you guys so much for celebrating 1 year with us this whole month. We appreciate it. And like I said, there's a lot of ways you guys can help support the show. Tell your friends and leave reviews. Anything else, guys, before we go?
Nope, that about covers it for me.
I hate NHL 20.
Big thank you to Acorn. We have another guest next week, and guys, we'll talk to you next week.
All right,
thank
bye,
you
everybody.
so much for having me on. I had a lot of fun.
Bye.
Oh yeah, no problem. Thank you for being on. All right, later, everybody. Toodles.
Bye.